Greetings fellow mammals. The SCW-10 is a fast-firing, low-recoil, high-damage weapon that seems to have no downsides apart from its 15-round magazine. Today we will find out if that description is accurate and how good this little machine actually is. So, like usual, let's start off with the base stats now. Damage-wise, this is the only SMG that has a 3-shot potential, by going from 33.4 damage up to 9 meters, to 25 up to 21 meters, to 20 up to 36 meters, and then 16.7 up to 75 meters, and then finally down to 14.3 until infinity. Lots of steps, but that should be expected for this weapon category. This damage graph then turns into the following bullet to kill graph: 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7. With a blistering fire rate of 800 rounds per minute, that turns into a time to kill of 150 milliseconds in the first range. That is the lowest full auto time to kill in the entire game. Faster than the TR7 and faster than the SG-553R. Granted, those have other up and downsides in return, but that's not the topic of today. But even if we move past the first range, you can never really call this a slow killing weapon. With 225 milliseconds in the second, 300 in the third, 375 in the fourth, and 450 milliseconds in the fifth range beyond 75 meters, this weapon kills quite fast at any range, at least for an SMG. And for some reason they didn't counterbalance this with high recoil and a small magazine like they did on the TR7. Instead, they seemingly ignored the recoil part entirely and instead went even harder on the magazine size. So now we have a weapon a toddler could control with an insane performance, but only 15 rounds. That is annoying, but it is nowhere near enough of a downside for what you get in return. And for the people among you that think that this is still not fast enough, let's go over the headshot stats now. I'll throw all 3 graphs on the screen at the same time today, because this is essentially the same shit from last episode with the AK-4D. With the default ammo, nothing changes unless you land 3 headshots, and at that point that reduction only takes place beyond the first range. With hollow point ammo you get a full reduction across all ranges with 2 headshots already. So again, a clear improvement for the points, but I honestly have to ask, why? Yes, a 2-shot kill range with a time to kill of 75 fucking milliseconds is redonkulous, but this is the fastest killing weapon anyway, even with only body shots. And the accuracy is not the best, so you do need to do something about that, and we also still have that 15-round magazine issue. From my point of view, those 15 points are needed somewhere else. But if you still want to try this out, go for it. At least it isn't almost useless like on so many other weapons. Talking about our budget though, let's go over the loadouts now. Before we approach the magazine issue, let me show you the bare gun first. As I said, the recoil is easily manageable, but the accuracy is a bit lacking. And these iron sights are not acceptable, at least for my taste. That means if we now switch over to the first build, 5 points are already down for my red dot sight, and then we need at least 20 for a suppressor, and now we are sinking 40 points into the 25 round magazine. I guess this is where the balancing comes in. We now have 10 points left, and there are 2 ways to spend those. First one is to simply slap a laser on it. Solid choice, nothing wrong with that. Personally, I'd go for the other option though. Instead of the 20 point suppressor, I upgrade to the 25 one because it just feels better, and then I spend the other 5 credits on something I will very rarely recommend on anything else: the mag catch. This is one of the rare instances where that actually makes sense to use, because for some reason we don't get a 25 round fast magazine for 50 points. I don't know why, but I guess we don't have a fast 20 round magazine either, so this is probably part of the balancing too. I have used this setup for quite a while, and I have to say having 25 rounds on this weapon does indeed feel quite nice. But I also quickly noticed that a lot of the time I could have managed with a bit less, especially at mid-range, if my shots were actually landing where I was aiming. And that's where the second loadout comes in. On this one I went for the full accuracy approach. That means, apart from my red dot of course, 20-point blue laser and 20-point light barrel combined. I still want my 25-point suppressor, and then we have just the perfect amount of credits left to afford the 20-round magazine. I also used this for quite a while and it did feel better than the first setup, at least to me, but it still wasn't quite where I wanted it to be. Accuracy-wise, this almost feels like overkill, and therefore I decided that reducing the recoil from fine to almost non-existent combined with just one of the accuracy attachments instead would be a better idea. Before I go over to that third and final setup though, I do want to mention that this is the one where you could try out the hollow point ammo by getting rid of the laser and spending 15 out of those 20 points on the ammo, and then you can put the 5 remaining ones into the mag catch again. Not my thing, but if you wanted to try that, there you go. Now, the third and the final build, and simultaneously my personal favorite. This is quite similar to what we just did. I got rid of the blue laser but kept the light barrel, and then I put the saved points into the alloy vertical grip instead. Might seem redundant because the recoil is so minimal already, and I do get that, but I am simply lazy and I like having to do as little as possible. I don't get joy out of controlling recoil, I enjoy smashing aircraft, among other things. So this just makes the gun feel like a breeze to use. It's very comfortable, it's quite accurate, it is suppressed, yes, 20 rounds aren't great, but they are fine, and the recoil is smooth as butter. With this setup you can enjoy that insane time to kill whilst barely having to move your hand. Oh, and one more thing I want to mention, for some reason the slim angled grip only costs 20 points on this weapon. Usually it's 25, so that means if you, for whatever reason, are not satisfied with an ADS speed of 167 milliseconds and instead need it to be even quicker, then you could also go for that one. Before we move on to the ranking now, I wanted to show you a little gimmick setup. Nothing I would use regularly, but it did bring me some fun for a few short matches. I call this the "I'm fast as fuck, boy" loadout. With this 10-point hand stop, you can shoot while sprinting. Obviously only in hipfire. That's why the rest of the build looks like that. No sight, flashlight, laser, and then you can either go for the 30-point CQB suppressor and the 15-round fast mag, or you switch that around for the flash hider, the 20-round mag, the mag catch, and a red dot sight. Very unconventional build and playstyle, nothing for me, but maybe someone out there enjoys this. A different weapon that can lean even more into hipfire buffs without having these ammo issues could probably pull this off better though. Maybe we will encounter one of those in the near future, but that's it for the loadout section. I think we very clearly established that this weapon is quite nuts. The real question now is whether this is A or enough for S tier. Let's put the cards on the table. The only downside of this weapon is the lack of ammo. And yes, it's also not perfectly accurate, but most weapons need at least one accuracy attachment, so I wouldn't really hold that against it. That shortcoming in the ammo department does have an impact on the clean S tier ranking though. And another argument in favor of A tier would be that a weapon like the SG-553R has the exact same damage model while only firing a tad bit slower. And the resulting increase to the time to kill is so minuscule you might as well completely ignore it. The important part is that that weapon comes with a 30-round magazine by default, and depending on your build it could even go as high as 40. So you essentially get the same performance but with substantially more ammo and no additional costs. On the other hand, the SCW-10 has naturally better hipfire, so much so that for CQB you barely need an attachment for it to be useful at all. And on top of that, because it's an SMG, if you use it on the engineer class you basically get the equivalent of a red laser buff for free. With all this context and because of those reasons, the SCW-10 will receive a place in S-. A few small additions or adjustments in cost in the ammo department would quickly lift this to a safe spot in regular S tier. But a few small adjustments in accuracy or recoil could also quickly pull it down into A tier. However, as it stands right now, this is a very efficient weapon and a quite fun one at that. I can easily see this getting nerfed in the future though. We will have to see. But that's it for today. Thank you for your time and I'll see you on the battlefield. Sorrow, out.